Welcome back to the Remote Islander, guys. You know this is your go-to podcast for the remote work in the Caribbean and Latin America. I'm your host, Sasha. Now, if you've seen my other interviews, they're typically with other remote workers talking about their experiences, their stories, giving you tips about how to become a remote worker. This episode is going to be slightly different because we're talking to someone who is an expert in one of the grayest areas in remote work that I think, I struggle with, a lot of people struggle with, and it is on paying your taxes as a remote employee. Now, this episode is going to be specific to my friends in Jamaica, my followers in Jamaica. So just keep that in mind, all right? It's also hopefully the start of a series where we talk about taxation in the other islands and other Latin American countries. So today, I am so happy to have Colette Guthrie with me. Colette, how are you doing?
I am well, thank you, Sasha. Happy to be here.
And thank you so much for your support. I saw your comments on my episode with Priscilla. I was super excited to get that kind of reaction from people because your comment was you were like, oh my gosh, it finished already. And I love that because honestly, we would have kept talking, but we both had to go.
Ironically, that day, I was working remotely. I was working from home.
Okay, so you do have some remote work experience. So let me correct that, guys.
Absolutely.
She's a part-time remote worker. All right, so Colette, please introduce yourself to the remote islanders.
All right. So I have the privilege of being born in Guyana
Oh, nice.
and live in Jamaica.
Very nice.
I'm an accountant, and that is what brought me to Jamaica almost 20 years ago.
Okay,
Since
nice.
then, I married a Jamaican. So I've been Jamaican for a good number of years.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to being an accountant, I'm an author.
Yes.
I've written 4 books, and I work with PriceWaterhouseCoopers in the tax department. I'm a senior manager there. And my first love in terms of career has been tax.
Okay.
I've been a tax professional. Before I came to Jamaica, I worked with the Guyana Revenue Authority.
Okay. All right. Well, I can't say that I have a love of taxation. I really don't. Just because it's a lot of maths, and I like maths, but and there are a lot of rules. That's the other thing that you have to know your rules. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this series is because it is the question I get asked the most. There are a lot of countries that don't have clear guidelines on what you're supposed to do. You really don't have a lot of guidance. So I was really excited when I saw that you're an accountant, and I followed you immediately and I reached out because I thought this is something that remote workers, remote employees need. So just to clarify, right? What I think a remote worker is, based on my experience, is two things. One, where you are a national, you work for a foreign employer, and you get paid in your local currency in your country. So that's one option. The other one I've seen, and it's similar to what I have, my experience, is you are a national, you work for a foreign employee, a foreign employer, sorry, and you get paid in a foreign currency outside of your country, all right? You have the options to like withdraw money to your bank account, or if you have a card, I have an account called a PAYE card, so I have a card that I can use locally in my country. Are those all the remote worker options?
Well, you've hit the main one.
Okay.
In addition to that, you may have somebody who is normally resident in a country and is sent overseas for maybe a temporary period to
Okay.
work for their local employer, but
Mm-hmm.
they have been sent, it could be seconded, maybe a year, 2 years, or a few months or a few weeks. Those
Okay.
persons would also be working remotely, although on a part-time basis.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much for clarifying that. So, in those cases, are the taxation rules different or are they the same?
All right, so there's some nuances there.
Of course, yes.
So one of the main things with taxation is that although there are a lot of rules, a lot of it depends on the substance of what is happening, the reality of the person's situation.
Right.
Well, one of the broadest rules is the matter of resident.
Okay.
So someone could be a tax resident in a country and they are working remotely. Say I'm in Jamaica and I'm a resident of Jamaica, tax resident of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
And generally that means you are here, you're born here, you're a national, and you work here, and
Right.
you're here pretty much all the time.
Right.
You could be here for half of the year,
Mm-hmm.
183 days. And persons who come to Jamaica and work for that length of time would be considered resident here.
Right.
You may also fall in the tax net if you're here shorter time, but it depends on your peculiar circumstances. So you won't have a rule that says if you come here for 3 months, it's automatic. The general
Okay.
rule is you have to look at the factors in each scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Once you fall into that bucket as a resident, the other rule is residents are normally taxed on their worldwide income.
Okay.
So a Jamaican resident would be taxed on the income that they earn from that overseas employer.
Right.
As a resident of Jamaica, it will be subject to tax under the jurisdiction of Tax Administration Jamaica. That's the revenue authority here.
Mm-hmm.
The income may also be subject to tax in the United States if that's where they work. So
Right.
you may have something called double taxation. So you'd
Okay.
have to go deeper now and get some other rules of what
Mm-hmm.
to do in circumstances. But generally, if you're a resident, you're generally taxed on your worldwide income.
Okay, now like in Trinidad, we have, I think it's called like a personal tax allowance, I believe,
Right.
of 72,000 TT annually, and then you are taxed on the excess of that, right? That's what I believe. Now, y'all, I am not an expert, right? So this is my reading and understanding. So if I get it wrong, do not come for me, all right? But yes, that is what I believe it is. Is there something like that in Jamaica as well?
Of course. So individuals are allowed a tax-free threshold
Mm-hmm.
is currently 1.7 million, roughly, and $88.
That's Jamaican dollars.
Right. So
Okay.
if you earn income, if you think income tax, that 1.7 million is tax free.
Okay.
If you earn income below that, you wouldn't be subject, it wouldn't be subject to income tax.
Right.
The income above that, up to, so there's another band. The
Right.
second band is taxed at 25%.
Right.
So from the 1.7 million up to 6 million.
Okay.
So in between there, you would have 4 million and some change.
Mm-hmm.
That would be taxed at 25%.
All right.
Above that now, you have anything above 6 million would be taxed at 30%.
Okay. Understood. So they're like two different tax brackets basically.
Two different tax rates.
Okay, got it. Thank you for explaining that. I don't know if it's like that here, but I'm sure there is. There's something similar. Now, you
Right.
mentioned double taxation. Now, I know in some countries there's like a treaty with the US where they don't do double taxation. I believe Trinidad has that rule. Is that different in Jamaica?
Oh, no, it's the same. So double taxation, the treaties are actually to avoid double taxation,
Right.
eliminate double taxation. So if somebody is taxed in more than one place, and there is a treaty, which is an agreement between normally it's two countries, so it's a bilateral treaty, then the person who earns that income that is taxed in the US and in Jamaica would be able to get credit.
Okay.
Well, the tax that they suffered in the US against the Jamaican income tax calculation. But for that to happen, they would have to submit an income tax return. And
Got
then they
it.
can apply the tax that was withheld by the overseas employer against the Jamaican tax liability.
Taxation. Okay, got it. So basically, they paid some of their Jamaican taxes already
Right.
in the U.S. Got it.
Right. So
Understood.
there are other treaties as well. There is a very popular one with CARICOM. So the signatories to that CARICOM treaty would be subject to a similar treatment. So if you work in Guyana and Trinidad and you are earning income from Jamaica, you have certain rules that would allow you to eliminate that double taxation.
Okay.
The issue with remote workers that would pose a challenge is where that overseas employer doesn't withhold tax. You end up, for example, the person is working as a freelance person and they're being paid gross, so no tax is coming out. Then they would have to account for all the taxes in Jamaica.
Yes, and I think that's the case with a lot of remote workers where you get a lot of companies tell you you are responsible for your taxes. So we pay you, you handle your taxes. And I think that is the issue because when you work for an organization, you have an accounts department and they usually handle everything for you. So now trying to figure it out yourself is a little bit is difficult because like there's no guidance. You go onto people's websites, they haven't been updated for months, things like that. And then because remote work is growing and becoming more a norm, I think not having these resources is a big deal because where do you go to get help? I mean, come to the remote islander. We have Colette. If you're in Jamaica, she will help you as much as she can, and I will give you her information at the end of the show. But that I think that is one of the issues we have as remote employees.
Yes, so I can certainly point you in the right direction. And in addition to that, TAJ, Tax Administration Jamaica, is pretty good with giving
Okay.
guidance as well. So they have a robust website. TAJ is 10 years old and growing. And they have informational brochures.
Okay.
And one of the very popular one is on income taxes and income taxes as a self-employed person.
Okay.
One of the peculiarities with Jamaica and taxation is that if you have an overseas employer and you're a resident in Jamaica, you are allowed to account for your taxes on a self-assessment basis. However, you have to ask for permission to be treated as a self-employed person.
Okay.
You can write a letter and have that done. Okay. And then you can file the self-employed return. So you will be treated as if you're working for yourself as an employer, and you would be accounting for the taxes on a self-assessment basis. So while taxation is voluntary compliance, and the tax authorities would monitor you, and they would accept what you submit and then review it, it would be subject to an internal audit by persons that receive the return.
Right.
It is not. It's voluntary compliance, but it's not an optional thing.
Yes.
It's a legal obligation.
Yes, it is. Guys, hear that. It's a legal obligation. So pay your taxes, right? Just like Priscilla said, pay your taxes. So in terms of paying your taxes, right? Let's say I'm a Jamaican. I work for a US company. I get paid in US outside of the country. I'm not taxed in the US. I want to pay my taxes to Jamaica. What is the process? What do I do?
All right. So as a Jamaican, you would need to get a tax registration number.
Okay.
And most persons who are of driving age may have a driver's license. Once you have a driver's license, it's automatic. You have a tax registration number as well.
Okay.
Because that's what they use on the driver's license. So
That's
that's the
good to
first
know.
step. If you have a business that is registered in Jamaica, they would also use that same tax registration number. Now,
Okay.
in the US, they ask you to register your business on a different number. We don't have that here. So your tax registration number would cover you as an individual, and if you're an individual that has a business.
Okay.
So you would need to create an online account with Tax Administration Jamaica, because all the taxes have to be filed electronically.
Okay.
So you need to have that online account. It's pretty easy to set up. Persons can do it for themselves. They don't have to pay somebody a fortune. And TAJ has a help desk that you can contact if you're having challenges. So you would
Okay.
need an email address, and you would create your username and a password. They would ask you for certain basic identification information and some security questions, and you create that account. After you
Okay.
create the online account, you'd have to set up the taxes that you want to pay. So within the account now, you would set up the taxes for income tax and the other payroll taxes. So
Okay.
in addition to income tax, there are also some national contributions
Yes.
that you make for the good of the country for being a citizen here.
Right. And that
So
was one of the questions I had to ask, because I know
right,
you have national insurance, you
right.
have things like PAYE in Trinidad is pay as you earn. You have things like that. So
So the PAYE is same as income tax, and that usually is for the persons who are employed
right.
locally.
Yes.
The other people, they pay income tax.
Right.
There's the national insurance contribution, and there's education tax. It's like
Okay.
a contribution as well. It's also administered by Tax Administration Jamaica. NIS is administered by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And you have a fourth one, National Housing Trust. So that
Okay.
allows persons to borrow money from the National Housing Trust. So the
Okay.
contributions are also included when you're calculating your tax liability. So
Okay.
income tax, national insurance contribution, education tax, and national housing trust
Yes.
contributions.
All right. And these are statutory
Right.
deductions. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Oh, look, we get into terminology. Look at me.
Yes.
My research paid off a little bit there. All right.
So if you are earning under the 6 million, when you take the 25% income tax and you add on the other contribution, it comes up to about 30%.
Okay.
So you may be
Understood.
paying 30, and if you earn more money, a little bit over 30. Now, the
Okay.
thing with the self-employed persons, for one of the contributions, they have to account for, it's like two sides of it, the employee and the employer's portion.
Right.
So instead of paying a 3%, I think it's NIS, they would pay 6%.
Okay. Because technically you are both persons, right? You are the
Yeah.
employee and the employer.
Mhm.
Okay. And is that the only way you can do this as a remote employee, as like a you are a business?
You are like treated like a self-employed
A
person.
self-employed. Okay, no
Yeah,
problem.
that's it. Because the other income tax return, it assumes that you have a Jamaican employer.
Okay, understood. So it
And so
is
it's limited
basically
to the local employment income and the pension, the PAY and the investment income. So if you earn interest from a bank, investment income, that income tax return only takes care of that.
okay, understood. Now, as a remote employee who is filing taxes and you have these statutory deductions, are there any write-offs, deductible expenses? Because you're saying you're a self-employed person, so technically you're a business. Do you have deductible business expenses that you can claim?
Okay. So the principle behind the taxation is that you're taxed on your net profit,
Right.
net income. But for you to get that deduction for any expenses that are allowed under the law, under the Income Tax Act, you'd have to earn them wholly and exclusively in generating that income. So if
What does
you
that
are a
mean?
business person, for
Yeah.
example, earning rental income, you
Okay.
would be able to claim, maybe you have a loan from the bank, and you'd claim that interest expense as a part of earning the rental income.
Okay.
So a remote worker would have to demonstrate what expenses they incur to earn that overseas income. If it's
Okay.
near traveling and entertainment, if that's a part of the income, the expenses associated with generating the income, maybe they're a freelancer and they're earning consulting fees, they can take a deduction for the expenses that they incur to earn the fees.
Okay. What about things like internet? Because as a remote worker, you have to connect to the internet to work with your employer. Can that be considered a business expense because it is needed to do your job?
Right. Yes, you could report things like your internet, utilities, telephone. You have to be clear though. You have to keep very meticulous records.
Clearly.
And it's voluntary reporting, self-reporting.
Right.
So if you declare that it's 50-50, you have to be able to defend it if there is an audit.
Okay. I
So
got
they
it.
won't assume from the get-go that you're doing anything wrong.
All right.
But
So
they
you
have their ways of checking. So I would recommend somebody that is working remotely, if they're able to keep their finances for the business and earning that income separate, then they should do so.
okay.
So
Which
if you
might be
have
that
different
might be
bank
a little
account,
hard, yeah,
it might
because
be hard
like
if it
okay,
is at all possible. If not,
yeah.
keep very good records
Mhm.
and ensure that you treat everything as separate.
Yeah.
And you can work out your pattern so you'll be able to show over time what
Yeah.
is your reality.
But that's good advice. Try and keep your personal income and your professional income separate so that you are when you if you do get audited, you have clear records, bank statements, everything showing from your professional account what's happening. Would it be then that you should be paying things like your internet and your phone bill from that professional account so that you can keep proper records?
That would be the easiest way.
Okay. I
Best
guess
practice.
best practice, yes, of course, that's very important. So we have that you have to sign up with the Taxation Jamaica
Mm-hmm.
using their website. We have that there's deductible business expenses. Now, is there anything else that you have to do as a remote worker?
So you have your records to file the return.
Mm-hmm.
No, you'd have to report that income and the expenses. You can prepare an income statement or a profit and loss statement
Mm-hmm.
and show those net positions, and then you'd report it. If you
Okay.
have the remittance details from the employer, sometimes they don't give you a statement.
Right.
But if you are working locally, you would be able to get that kind of statement from the employer. So
Mm-hmm.
the remittance information, you have to put those together to come up with your own net profit position.
To be
Something that also persons are able to get if they're in a business, you have something called capital allowance. So if
okay.
you're using an asset, for example, a computer,
Mm-hmm.
you get an allowance. You basically get the cost of the asset over a period of time. So it
Okay.
goes against the income and you pay less taxes on it.
Got it. Understood. So I think that's basically we have the process done, right? Now, what, if anything, is the biggest mistake you see that when people are filing taxes? I don't know if you've ever worked with any remote workers or freelancers or self employed people trying to do this on their own. have you come across any issues that they may have, frequently asked questions, anything like that?
So the main issue would be persons that haven't kept the records.
Okay.
Then they're scrambling at the back end to try to piece it together. So
Yes.
they would do an estimate, and that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. Another issue is not making a budget or ignoring the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Every month you get in the salary, but you're not putting anything aside for taxes.
Right.
So those taxes will be due. There is a final return that should be filed in March.
Right.
But for persons that are treated as self-employed, how TAJ helps them is that they encourage them to file for the next period in advance
Mm-hmm.
on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
So you'd estimate the taxes for the period that's coming up and you'd file. If you have a net liability in 1 year and you anticipate your earnings will be the same,
Mm-hmm.
you could use that as the self-assessment for the following period, and then you'd pay the taxes quarterly so that when March comes, you don't have a large liability just one time out of pocket.
Right.
So
And
it's
then
helpful to plan like that.
based on that first quarter, you kind of could gauge for the next 3 quarters of the year, because it should be around the same once your income remains the same.
Right. If perchance you do lose that source of income,
Mm-hmm.
you are able to refile the estimate. You could reduce it downwards
Mm-hmm.
by once you do it before the last quarter of the year. So you
Okay.
pay in March, June, September, December. You have to do it before that December period reaches, that December 15 liability hits you.
Okay, understood. Now, is this something that regular schmegular people like me and the other remote islanders can do on their own? Would you recommend them, at least for the first time that they're doing it, get help from someone?
So the guidance that TAJ provides is pretty useful.
Mm-hmm.
You could also call them and have somebody walk you through it. If
Okay.
you are local and you're able to visit, you could visit one of the tax offices. So
Okay.
they do provide good help, and they
Mm-hmm.
provide a lot of help coming closer to the filing deadline. But persons can call them at any time and get information. And also, once you have that online account,
Mm-hmm.
you can send them a message by way of that portal, a web message.
Okay.
You can send them a letter, and they can reach out to you once you provide your contact information.
Got it. That's I'm glad to hear that there's that resource, because that sounds very helpful, and at least people have some sort of recourse where they can be like, hey, this is, I don't know what to do. And guys, I'll make sure and put the links in my show notes so that we can give you that information. Now, is there anything else that we haven't talked about? Because honestly, preparing for this interview was a little hard, because this is not my wheelhouse, right? I was reading some of the words, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know what any of this means. I actually saw something called, I think it's general consumption tax on digital
Right.
services. That's something I saw pop up, and I wanted to ask you, what is that?
All right. So you may know it as VAT in Trinidad.
Okay, yes, we know it as that.
Okay. So
Value
general
added tax.
consumption tax is a
Hmm.
tax on consumption.
Okay.
It's administered usually by the person that's selling you a product or a
Hmm.
service. So as a remote employee, you would incur expenses that would include that
Yes,
consumption tax.
yes.
However, in order to get the benefit of a deduction for the tax that is suffered, you
Hmm.
would have to be registered as in order to claim it back,
Hmm.
you'd have to be registered as a business and earning above 15 million Jamaican dollars in revenue
Okay.
before you can even go in that direction.
Okay.
So the others of us who earn money below that threshold generally were not
Don't.
registered, and we would just absorb the DCT on the regular expenses. For example, your light bill over here may have DCT on it, depending on
Right.
your usage. So you would have those as a part of your general expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So general consumption tax is not a headache for remote worker unless they're a business that's generating over 15 million Jamaican dollars and generating a supply that is taxable. So if you're a consultant and you're earning over 15 million Jamaican dollars, you may be asked to register as a GCT registered taxpayer.
Okay.
But that's another conversation.
Because that's different. That's I don't think I'm not sure if that is everybody. Like if it applies to everybody. And guys, if it does apply to you and you want to have that conversation, let me know in the comments, and I will have Colette back so we could talk about that in particular. So just let me know. But what I was saying, is there anything that I did not ask, just out of
Yes,
sheer
there's
ignorance?
all right. So there are other sources of income that you can earn
Mm-hmm.
that would also need to be reported on that income tax return.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, there are a few common ones. If you
Okay.
earn dividend income, you'd have to report it on the income tax return, and
Okay.
interest income from investments. The
Okay.
thing with those, though, is that usually they're taxed at the source. So, for
Okay.
instance, paying your dividend income generally withhold the tax from the dividends. So
Yes.
you just have to make up for it if they did not withhold, or if they withheld at a rate that was lower than what is the statutory rate in your country of residence in Jamaica.
Okay. Now that brings me to something similar. What about bonuses?
All right, so bonuses for the purposes of the Income Tax Act are taxable, fully taxable.
Okay.
The only way you would not pay tax on a lump sum payment will be under certain conditions depending on what the lump sum payment is for. So some
Okay.
persons get a lump sum when they're terminated.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain elements of tax, a tax-free portion in some of those payments.
Right.
But generally, the bonus is treated as fully taxable income. Once it's above that threshold,
Mm-hmm.
income tax would apply to it.
So if it's like a performance bonus at the end of the
Yep.
year, fully taxed. But if it's like a severance payment, um,
There are
it
some different
there's
rules
different rules. Okay, because
that
it's
may apply.
technically not a bonus. I mean, that really is supposed to be payment for. I know some people they negotiate a severance into their contract, so it kind of tides you over until you get another job.
Right. So that wholly and exclusive, the rule would kind of apply here.
Okay.
So if there is a clear connection between the employment that you're under and the
Mm-hmm.
income, generally it will be subject to tax.
Okay.
You
Got
may
it.
have some allowance for certain gifts
Mm-hmm.
of a small nature, but for the income tax act, generally there isn't a dollar value to those types of income or gifts.
Income. Yeah.
In the
Because.
UK, no, there's a value. They put a dollar value, a pound value to
Mm-hmm.
it, so you know how much of a gift is tax free or not.
So you do like a dollar under that, so tax
It's
free.
generally a small sum, yeah.
Yes. I know people try to find all sorts of ways to. I don't want to say beat the system, but I know some people think taxation is unfair. I don't. I understand what it's used for. It is for the betterment of your country. But I know people try to come up with all sorts of ways to come up with deductions or
Yes,
tax
yes,
free
yes.
things.
So one of the principles, the canons of taxation is equity.
Yes.
So it is not expected that the tax will be unfair
No.
and that it would cost more to generate the income in
Yes.
terms of the taxes than the
Hmm.
government is earning. So some element of balance.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of fairness, yes, people try to hear two terms: evade
Yes.
and avoid. So avoiding is normal and it's not illegal, right?
Right.
In the international tax world, you have a concept called paying your fair share of tax.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
the international organizations go after the big corporations that are not perceived to be paying their fair share of
Mm-hmm.
taxes. But on the other hand, you have individuals who try to avoid tax as much as possible. Now,
Right.
Benjamin Franklin is credited with saying there is nothing as certain as debt and taxes. Until
That
that
is
day,
true.
we keep paying taxes.
Yes,
But you
that
do
is
it
true.
in a way that is legal.
Yes.
You
Yes.
try to minimize your liability by doing
Mm-hmm.
tax planning. However, you have the other hand where persons bend over backwards to evade taxes. That's the
Yes.
illegal one that we do not want to be involved in.
Agreed. Agreed. That is true. So just on that point, right? You said tax planning. What would be your advice as an accountant? Because I know a lot of people, and I say this all the time. I feel like going to school doesn't prepare you for adulthood. There are lots of things you don't learn about until you become an adult and you start working and you're like, what is this? What is taxes? What is insurance? All of those things. What would be your advice for remote workers in particular when it comes to managing your income at the end of a month or end of a year? What would be your advice?
All right, now I have the friend who is planning to write the book where the
Okay.
people who need the business accounting insurance
Needed.
advice.
Much needed.
Until then, if you're a remote worker and you want to manage your tax affairs, I would say the main thing is to keep good records.
Okay.
What you can do to minimize your tax is look for investment opportunities that are tax free to a certain extent. So you have certain investment options that allow you to fix your money on a institution, so for 5 years.
Right.
And if you don't withdraw from the principal within that 5 years, you're able to get the interest tax free.
Right.
We have some of those in Jamaica. They're
Yes.
quite common.
Yes.
Persons would need to look and do their research and invest in areas where you would not have to pay tax.
Mm-hmm.
You have certain business expenses that you're able to use to reduce your income
Right.
legitimately. So it comes
Yes.
back to keeping proper books and
Good record.
records so that at the end of the day, you're able to claim those deductions.
And then if you are ever audited, you can say, hey, I have everything I need, everything you need to see that I'm doing the right thing.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So I want to give you this opportunity because I know you mentioned you are an author. So we're stepping away a little bit from the taxes. I want to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so I became an author last February. Feels like 10
Oh,
years
that's
now.
quick. That was quick. 1 year, 4 books.
Yes, so I did. My first book was a devotional on the book of Proverbs, wise
Okay.
words for everyday living.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot about money
Okay.
in the book of Proverbs, and I have a section called Money, Money, Money. All right, so my second and third books kind of flew under the radar. Most people don't know about them. They said to me when I came out with the fourth book, they said, "Oh, this is your second book." So my second and third book are part of a series called The Feast of Wisdom. Going with the
Okay.
wine,
You're right.
that those are actually two Bible study books, 200 questions that you may want to ask about what's in the Bible. So it's the basics, but in a
Mm-hmm.
nice, creative way. I talk about food for the most part in that book. Food,
Right.
right? So talk about wedding cakes, talk about bread, talk
Mm-hmm.
about June plum or golden apple, as you may know it,
Right.
in that book. And my fourth book is called Freedom from Fibroids. But
Right.
that
I
came
saw
from a
that one.
personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my baby now. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that one on LinkedIn. I think it's on your profile picture, if I remember correctly.
Right. So
Oh
I
yes.
recently became an Amazon #1 bestseller in categories with that.
Congratulations, that is amazing. So she's not just an accountant, guys, she's a renowned author. So you're getting advice from somebody, who has lots of props.
Thank you.
Yeah, but that is amazing. And I just want to say thank you so much, Colette, because I think you shed a lot of light for Jamaican followers on what to do, um, what not to do as well, and where they can get the help. And just so you guys know, the intention is for Colette and I to collaborate and have something concrete put together on the resources section of the website, the remoteIslander.com. So if you're not a person who could remember all the information from the interview, it's going to be there on the site with links and everything. All right. So Colette, how do we find you if we need help?
All right, so you can find me on LinkedIn as Colette Guthrie. That's ColetteGuthrie. I'm also on Instagram, Colette Guthrie,
Right.
on Facebook.
Okay.
So, and you can email me info@thoughtstothewise.com.
All right.
I'll give you all of it.
I will put all of it, yes. I will put all of those contact information details in the show notes for this episode. And I just want to say thank you so much, Colette. And guys, if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. You can send me an email and I can forward them to Colette. Or we can do a part 2 of this episode if you like. So thank you so much for enlightening us on taxation in Jamaica. I really appreciate it, and I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Sasha. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.